everyone, and welcome to Knowledge at Noon. Today, I am joined by one of our subject matter experts and instructors for our certificate in Gen AI for team productivity, Numa Damani. And so, uh, before that, I just want to thank you very much for being here today and agreeing to this great topic, relevant topic too. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Numa, if you want to tell everyone about it before we get in, about yourself before we get into it. That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you for the intro. Here you go. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Numa. I'm a machine learning engineer with about a decade of experience in natural language processing and large language models. I'm also an adjunct faculty at Georgetown, and one of the courses that I will be teaching this fall is a brand new course, which is the certificate in Gen AI for team productivity. I'm also the co-author of Introduction to Generative AI, which was published earlier this year from Manning Publications. And that's how to get in touch with me. So today we'll talk broadly about what is generative AI, how we're seeing it in the workplace. I've got a couple case studies for productivity in Gen AI, and we can talk about how we think it's going to shape the workday. I'll briefly touch on the economic potential of Gen AI, and then introduce a certificate that we are launching this fall. Okay, so what is generative AI, right? So AI is actually a broader concept that is used to create an intelligent system. So it's just a field of computer science that's used to incorporate intelligence into machines, and it basically enables computers to perform tasks that typically require human intelligence, such as recognizing patterns, making decisions, learning from experience, or just understanding natural language. So then machine learning is actually a subset of AI that teaches the computer system to learn from past experiences through training data. So unlike traditional programming where specific instructions are hard-coded, what machine learning systems do is that they will improve upon their performance over time by identifying patterns or relationships with the data that they process. So then within that, deep learning is an even more specialized subset of machine learning that involves the use of neural networks, which model and understand complex patterns in data. And then I've got kind of natural language processing off to the side there, which is just building machines to understand human language. And then generative AI is, right in between all of those things, which is a very special subset of deep learning, and that focuses on creating new content by learning from large data sets. So unlike traditional machine learning models, which are usually designed to recognize patterns or make predictions based on existing data, what Gen AI does is it uses neural networks, which is a subset of deep learning, to generate novel outputs such as images, text, or video. I know that there's always a lot of confusion between where Gen AI kind of fits into the realm of AI. So what it really does is, so Gen AI refers to any sort of technology that can generate text, image, video, audio, or other forms of content based on the patterns and structures of the data that they're trained on. I actually asked for help from a couple Gen AI tools to help me explain this. So I've got ChatGPT, Bard, and Dolly here, which are, essentially saying the same thing, that Gen AI is a type of AI that focuses on creating new data, such as images, videos, music, and text, rather than just analyzing existing data. So then very quickly, a high-level overview of large language models and how they work. So the large language models, these are the models that are behind ChatGPT, Gemini, and other similar systems, are trained on massive amounts of uncurated data from the internet. So the way that they work, or the task that they're trained to do, is to predict incomplete text that's based on patterns that is learned during the training process. So as the model's size and diversity and volume of the training data increase, the model's ability to learn patterns and generate complex, coherent, and contextually relevant text improves dramatically. So this is a lot of what we've seen over the past couple of years, is that as we start to throw a lot more data to these models, they seem to do a lot better. So today's foundational large language models aren't actually intended to be task specific. They can actually be fine-tuned for a lot of different use cases, but because of how the training phase is structured and the general purpose nature of the task, so again, the task is let's predict the word that fits the best in a given context. They're able to generate text fluidly in a variety of contexts, and that makes them really, really powerful. They, however, have a couple limitations because of how they're trained and the data they're trained on. So they're trained on massive amounts of uncurated data from the internet, so no one actually knows what's in those data sets. And because of that, they can sometimes produce biased outputs, which reflect the biases that are present in their data sets. They can sometimes regurgitate sensitive information if it has been seen in the training process. They can, reproduce toxic and harmful content, which is often found on the internet and social media platforms. Another pitfall of large language models is actually their ability to hallucinate. So hallucinations are really just when large language models confidently make up incorrect information or explanations when they're prompted. So we just talked about how large language models work. So they predict incomplete text that is based on patterns learned during the training process. But what happens when they're faced with just uncertain or multiple possible completions is that they will select the option that seems the most plausible, even if it lacks any basis in reality. So why are we talking about Gen AI today? So despite the limitations, we actually believe that Gen AI is going to change the way that many people work across sectors. We've already seen a lot of evidence of this. And then especially due to a lot of their limitations, it's really important to understand how they work at a high level and then how to be able to use them in a way that is most effective for you. And then finally, we believe that knowing how and how not to use Gen AI effectively represents a major advantage to teams of all kinds. So there have been a lot of recent studies about this, about AI in the workplace, especially given with the rise of Gen AI. Here's one of the studies that came out earlier this year that I really liked. And the first thing that they asked was, how often do you use Gen AI at your work? And then how long have you been using Gen AI at work? And what they learned was that 3 out of 4 people are already using AI at work. So in the last 6 months, I think the study came out 2 or 3 months ago. So in the first half of this year, the usage of Gen AI actually doubled by 6 months, doubled in the last 6 months. And users say that AI helps them save time, it helps them focus on their most important work, it helps them be more creative, and then it helps them enjoy their work more. So in that same way, employers also want AI at work. So for this, they had asked to what extent would you agree or disagree with following statements about Gen AI about impact on skills? And the questions were, I would be more likely to hire less experienced candidate with AI skills than more experienced without AI skills. In considering job candidates, I would not hire someone without AI skills. Because they can delegate more work to AI, early in career talent will be given greater responsibilities. So 76% of professionals actually now say that they need AI skills to remain competitive in the job market. And 69% of the people say that AI can help them get promoted faster. And 79% say that AI skills will actually broaden their job opportunities. So there are 66 leaders who will not hire someone without AI skills right now. So right now, the vast majority of workers, approximately 88%, are actually in non-technical roles where Gen AI is being increasingly utilized to assist with just repetitive and routine tasks. So by automating a lot of these activities, Gen AI actually employs employees to focus on more complex, more creative, and more value-added work. So it's this augmentation of human capabilities that not only enhances productivity, but then it also enables workers to develop new skills and then be able to engage in just higher level problem solving and ultimately contribute to both personal growth and organizational efficiency. So the idea is that having a human AI team is actually a lot more effective than having the AI or human alone, where you could have a use case where an AI is providing some sort of initial draft or analysis and the human reviews the work. So this ability and other skills has already made Gen AI really valuable in the workplace. So then I've got a couple case studies This one is about service. So this examines the effects of implementing a generative AI conversational assistant on the productivity of customer support agents. So there were a couple key findings from the study. A really big one was productivity increase. So the introduction of the AI tool actually led to a 14% increase for productivity on average, which was measured by the number of issues that the customer service agent was able to resolve per hour. This was especially pronounced among lower skilled or new workers who actually saw a 35% improvement. So this study was actually very interesting because it was one of the first to study the impact on less experienced workers and was able to quantify them, quickly improving their performances. The other couple key learnings from this was around customer sentiment. So it just led to improvements in customer sentiment, suggesting that the tool helped agents handle customer interactions more effectively. The other one was employee retention. So there was evidence that the AI assistants contributed to higher employee retention rates because the tool made the job easier and more manageable, especially for less experienced workers. And then the last one was around worker learning. So, like we just talked about with the new workers, was that the tool might facilitate worker learning by exposing less experienced workers to approaches and strategies of their more skilled colleagues. So this is one of the case studies that's often cited as the practical benefits of AI in augmenting human work, especially in domains where repetitive tasks are more common, such as customer service. It also then highlights the potential of Gen AI tools to enhance productivity, especially for less experienced workers, and then kind of the broader impact that comes with that around job satisfaction, employee retention, and then learning within the workplace. So here's another case study which explores using specifically ChatGPT on productivity and satisfaction of experienced business professionals. So here they actually do the study for marketing, HR professionals, consultants, data analysts, for completing any sort of like routine tasks like writing press releases or some sort of documentation. So some of the key findings from this specific study was, again, around productivity increase. So the use of ChatGPT enabled professionals to complete tasks 40% faster than they would have without the tool. The other thing that they noticed in the study was actually quality improvement. So the quality of the output actually improved by 18%, which suggested that ChatGPT not only speeds up the processes, but then also enhances the overall quality of the work produced. The other thing here was just complementary effects of the productivity boost. So the productivity boost was actually driven by two main factors. So the first was the substitution effect. So that was ChatGPT can quickly generate some sort of initial draft or content, and then the professional has to, spend less time on the task itself. And then the complementary effect was that when humans and ChatGPT collaborated, they would produce just more better quality work than either of them could alone, really highlighting the strengths of AI and human creativity together. And then similar to the last study, this also focused on increased worker satisfaction. So it showed that ChatGPT significantly increased worker satisfaction because it was able to handle routine tasks more efficiently. Professionals could then focus on more strategic and engaging aspects of their work, which then led to higher job satisfaction. So again, this case study highlights the potential of Gen AI and tools like ChatGPT to be able to augment human capabilities in professional settings. And I've got one more on software development, which focuses on GitHub Copilot. So GitHub Copilot is a Gen AI tool that is used to assist software developers by suggesting code in real time. So some of the key findings from this study were similar. So there was increased speed. So developers who used GitHub Copilot were able to complete a software project about 56% faster than those who did it without Gen AI. So it took almost 3 hours to maybe complete the task without AI, but when you were using Copilot, they were actually able to finish it in about an hour. Again, similar to one of the first case studies about the customer service, this experiment also revealed that less experienced programmers actually gained the most from Copilot. So the tool helped them, just code more quickly by providing real-time code suggestions, which actually reduced a lot of time that they would spend on things like problem solving or debugging. And then again, for productivity boost, it actually allowed developers to maintain their focus, momentum, and it led to a substantial increase in overall productivity. So what this study shows is that it's not only just for non-technical folks, but also, even software developers can benefit from something like Gen AI. So how could Gen AI shape the workday? So I've got a couple of things here, and I'm not going to read all of them out loud, but there's a lot of different ways where you can actually incorporate Gen AI into your professional workflow. So a really big, obvious one is definitely communications. We've already seen a lot of instances of this with, people using tools in like Zoom meetings to be able to generate summaries or high-level points. Um, a lot of it is around writing, refining speeches, presentations. Um, and then we can also look at other things like administration. So, you know, drafting emails, document creation. There's a lot with marketing and sales that is actually seeing a lot of focus for Gen AI right now, especially with a lot of like text to image tools like DALL-E and such for generating images as well. But then even beside that, you can also generate like personas and social media updates. Customer service is another big one. Human resources is actually an interesting one too, where you can use it for things like generating onboarding material, or training programs that are actually personalized to your employee. And you can do it a lot faster with something like a Gen AI tool, as opposed to spending hours on generating something that's personalized for one employee. Um, Then we've got project management, research and development. Again, there's also like a lot of tools now where you can generate summaries just from a lot of research papers without having to read them yourselves. Um, Gen AI actually has a really big role in legal with just analyzing legal documents and providing more like human readable summaries for you. Um, a lot of creative roles, like we just talked about with like marketing, so generating visual content, drafting articles, scripts. Um, there's a lot of use also being used in like healthcare for like clinical summarization, things like that. And then again, education for creating customized learning plans and materials. So now I'm going to quickly touch on the economic potential of Gen AI. There are a lot of studies that have been done on this. One of the more recent ones actually discusses how Gen AI's impact on productivity could add trillions of dollars in value in the global economy. So this one is actually McKinsey's study, which estimates that Gen AI could add about 2.6 to 4.4 trillion annually. And they do it across about 36 different use cases. And what they estimate is that this would actually increase the impact of all artificial intelligence by 15 to 40%. Another thing is that about 70% of the value for Gen AI use cases would fall under customer operations, marketing and sales, software engineering, and R&D. So those are some of the case studies that we actually just walked through. But they do think that Gen AI will have a significant impact across all industry sectors. The other one is that Gen AI has the potential to change the autonomy of work. So like we kind of just talked through with some of the case studies, what it will do instead of, I think, a lot of replacing individuals or, um, it will actually augment capabilities and be more of like a supplementary assistant. So that same study talks a little bit about the workforce transformation and how it's likely to accelerate. So it estimates that about half of today's work activities could be automated between 2030 to 2060, which is about a decade earlier than some of their previous estimates. And then finally, Gen AI can substantially increase labor productivity across the economy, but what that will require is investments across organizations to support workers as they shift what their work day looks like and what the activities look like. And then finally, we're still in the very early stages of Gen AI. So the era of Gen AI is just beginning. And I think it will still take some time to see the full realization of the technology's benefits. But a lot of the early studies that we are seeing are actually very compelling. Okay, which leads me to our course. So we developed a course. We developed a certificate in Gen AI for team productivity, and it covers a lot of the concepts that I talked about today. So it gives you like a high level overview of what Gen AI is. There's a lot of emphasis on prompting and being able to use Gen AI effectively and productively. Um, and then there's a couple specialized modules on. So there's one on productivity tasks. There's a focus on content creation for research and strategy, and then some specialized tasks like data analysis. And then there's a final capstone that brings all of those pieces together. The certificate starts at the end of September and goes about 8 weeks through mid-November.
Thank you. Well, thank you again. Great high level overview of that. As Numa was saying, we do have our certificate in Gen AI for team productivity starting in September. So if you're looking to use some of those in the fiscal year budgets too, just give us a shout on that one. So what we're going to do now is switch over to question and answer. So Numa, are you good to do the question and answers with here? Okay, so
Yeah.
we'll start off with the first one. And everyone in the audience, if you have a question, please put them in the chat here, and I will feed them to Numa here. So Nicole wants to know, what do you think are the best, Gemini versus Claude versus Bard, etc., and which ones are worth paying for?
So I think it depends a little bit on what your goal is. So ChatGPT is a really good, just like general purpose one. For something like Gemini or Microsoft Copilot, if you are already using a lot of their tools, like you're using Google Docs or you're using Microsoft Word, those are really good because they actually connect all of it pretty seamlessly. So, like if you're, generating something in like a table or something in Copilot, you can actually just like click on it and it'll just take you straight to like a spreadsheet, which is really nice and just easy to like put into your workflow. For something like Claude is if you're doing a lot of like marketing copy or just writing, it's really great at creative content, and I think better than some of the other ones. So I think it depends a little bit on what you want to use it for. But if you're kind of using it for something general purpose, they're all honestly will do what you want it to do. I personally pay for ChatGPT.
Great. Okay. So let's go to our next one here. So our next question is from Anja. It says, I value your information. Oh, this is not a question. This is great feedback. I value your information and multifaceted presentation. Inspiring. So, well, thank you. I I won't speak for you, but this sounds great to me. So Mary wants to know, are there any Gen AI resources you recommend for note-taking during meetings, both for your own personal reference, but also specifically to use if someone is tasked to take meeting notes and later share them with the team?
I really like Fireflies. It will, record and transcribe and summarize your discussions. It's really easy to integrate with Zoom, Google Meet, and Microsoft Teams. I also like Otter AI, which is which is pretty similar to how Fireflies works. But yeah, there's a bunch of options out there. I think there's like a new one that comes out every day, but Fireflies is the one I use.
Sure. You know, just my own comment on there. You were talking about marketing professionals using a lot of this, which is what I am. My only problem with like Microsoft Designer and some of these other ones is that like sometimes when it makes the picture, it does not spell the thing right, and I always I always have to go back and be like, oh my goodness. And sometimes I go in there and like, blur it out and put something else in there. But um, fantastic for me as far as generating images and stuff like that. So, all right. So our next question here is from Marjorie. Hello, good afternoon. Very informative session. Quick question. Would Notion count as Gen AI or would Gen AI count as supplementary software to Notion? My apologies if this is a rookie question. There's no rookie questions here.
So Notion has a couple of Gen AI features now. So Notion itself is not Gen AI, but now has a lot of Gen AI features, which is actually pretty exciting, and I use them sometimes. I'm a big Notion user as well. So
Hmm.
some of their features are, well, it will try to autocomplete text for you. You can kind of search through your documents. It does like information retrieval now. Um, but yeah, or it will like summarize your document for you. So it does have some features now, which is really nice.
Great. All right, let's go on to Patrick's question here. This is great. What are some of the risks or easy pitfalls involved in using these tools, and then a supplement to that, especially legal risks?
So some of the big risks would be like security, privacy concerns, copyright concerns, hallucinations. This is why it's like really important to understand what a lot of those risks are so you can make sure that you can mitigate them. So generally for some of the privacy risks, all of them do have a way to kind of turn off like using your content for training data. So you can do like a temporary chat or you can opt out of your data for training. All of the enterprise versions don't actually use it for training purposes. I would still not put in like very confidential information or any sensitive information into any of these tools because they do retain it for a certain period of time just so they can monitor it to make sure it follows like their acceptable policy use. Um, but if you are, but there's definitely ways to turn off your data for retraining, which would be one of the bigger risks. For some of the copyright stuff, what I would do is if you generate something that looks really suspicious, like it's just too good to be true, double check it and make sure it's not verbatim from somewhere. Um, a lot of it is just, I think, like at this point, unfortunately, like human intuition and making sure you just cross-reference and double check everything, which you should do because it can hallucinate and you don't actually know if what it's generating is true or not, right? So it's not designed to generate the most accurate or the most precise content. It's designed to generate the most helpful or really the most like probabilistic content. Um, so yeah, those I think would be some of the big risks that you have, which would just be at this point on you to double check and make sure that um, it's accurate. You're not, writing on, you're not taking else's work. Um, and then the way that I would use these tools anyway wouldn't be to just directly take something and copy paste it somewhere else. Let's say if I'm generating like marketing copy, the way I would do it is have it generate kind of a first draft for me and then modify and edit it, which will actually get around a lot of these risks for you too.
Well, there's a different question that kind of falls into that. Wants to know what's the best way to protect. Anja wants to know what's the best way to protect artwork from art students, or how can art students proof if their artwork's already used in AI models? So you touched on it. Can you talk a little more?
Yeah. So, if your artwork is online somewhere, there is a chance that it can be used in a training data set. There's actually a website, I think it's my data in it or something, where you can go check to see if your data has been used, if your artwork has been used in one of these models. What you can do is if you do find it in a training data set, you can send an email to these AI developers, probably like OpenAI or Anthropic, and ask them to remove it if that's what you would like. The best way to really protect yourself would be for your artwork to not be online or in public spaces, which can be hard if you're trying to promote your artwork. But there are a lot of regulations that are taking copyright into account right now, where I've seen a lot of different ways that people are trying to figure out how to deal with that. Some of it is that, AI developers have to disclose what copyrighted content they have in their training data sets. Some of it is that if they are using it, the artwork that they are using from, like, there's actually monetary benefit for individuals whose artwork has been used. So I've seen a couple different um, suggestions around it. And I think for copyright, because it is something where they unfortunately can't use it because of fair use, since a lot of times it's your style that will be incorporated and style isn't actually protected by fair use. It's like a really tricky, like, kind of legal loophole that there's a lot of regulation in place to figure out how to best resolve it. But yeah, for now, I would actually just check if your data is in a training data set, and if you don't want it in there, you can always email them and see if you can figure out a way for them to remove it.
Great. Great. Okay, so a few more comments. Let's see. I think this is the last major question that I have here. Uh, for Foreshta. Sorry if I mispronounced that. What is there for video production and post-production, music design, such as editing and color correction, and sound design and or special effects? I'll be taking notes on this one too.
So there's a couple. There's Sumo. Um, there's like that new one that came out by OpenAI. I'm not remembering the name right now, but I could probably look it up really quickly. Um, there's a few that came out more recently. Sumo's like the really big like music one. Um, God, what is that OpenAI one that came out? I can't remember the name. Um, there's there yeah, so there's like the really big OpenAI one, and then there's Sumo. It's not really for I think like color correction and such, but it's actually like generating new content. So you can kind of give it descriptions and it will generate a song for you or generate like a video for you.
I've seen a lot of the ones because video productions where I like Topaz Labs and things like
Correct.
that that are doing um, like deblurring image noise, upscaling from 1080p to 4K, all that kind of stuff. And then the image corrections on photos seem to be doing the best right now. Is the ones I've used, like deblurring, adding details. The ones that I've tried for video have not been as impressive so far.
Um, Sora, that's it. There's Sora, there's Suno, and there's like Udio, I think.
Great. Oh, here we go. Sorry if I missed. Let's see. Does Numa teach the course? Somebody was asking. Absolutely. She'll be one of your three instructors for the course. That's right. There's three instructors, right?
Yep.
Two. And so this is at a online course, so there will be no in person. This is an online course, so pretty flexible in that sense. So let's see. I think that's most of the questions. Is there anything you want to say on signing off as far as before I stop the recording and or about your promotion of your course or any projects, your book, anything like that?
Yeah, I think it'll actually be a really good course because I think there's a lot that we cover, and it gives you a lot of fundamental like tools and skills to be able to apply them for any sort of like Gen AI workflow. So there's a lot that we do introduce, but I think it also just equips you with the right skills to be able to do it for really any kind of workflow that you'd want to do. So hopefully I'll see some of you there.
Yeah, and actually, we just got a few more questions then. So, hey, like this one here. Orso wants to know any recommendations on free Gen AI tools for digital storytelling and content creation, especially for film and video making.
Um, I actually don't know any for film. Um, I'll have to. I need to. The Sora last I checked wasn't actually out, so that would be like your video making one. For a lot of them, there are concerns around misuse, especially with the elections being right around the corner. So they have been a little bit there have been some guardrails around them. I do believe there are a couple new video making ones, but I haven't looked more recently to see which ones have come out
Mm-hmm.
that might be free. For content creation, there's actually a lot of them. There's I think it's called like Crayon, where we'll do exactly what something like, Dolly and Stable Diffusion, the others ones will do, but it's free and it works pretty well.
Mm, okay. So let's see. Dave asked the question about which tools are allowed by Georgetown UIS, which is University Information Systems. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know UIS's policies as much for Georgetown University. So unless Numa, do you have any idea on that? Which ones are allowed by Georgetown UIS?
I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
So
Yeah.
I
I
would
will
say the
say that
best
we
thing
use
is to reach out
ChatGPT
to
on the house.
UIS on that one. All
Yeah.
right. And so here we go. We got one last question and then we'll wrap this up. Tammy wants to know, you mentioned leaders will not hire somebody without AI skills. Any ideas on how to gain hands-on experience? Great question.
Yeah. I think doing like a certificate or something like this is a really good way to get exposure. Um, but either way, I would just go play with a lot of these tools. So I would pick a couple that you're interested in, if it's like generating text or image or audio or video, and I would just go play with them. You don't actually need any sort of technical skills to do that. A lot of them are free. You can like find an open source or free version of, I think, literally everything at this point. So yeah, I would just go play with them, generate some content or logos or, whatever you're interested in.
Okay, great. All right, so I think we had a good session, good Q&A here. So I want to say thank you again, Numa. Thank you so much for this presentation. I'll reiterate, this was recorded. This will go out to everyone afterwards once I have it uploaded to our channel. So, and if there's any future questions or anything like that, Numa, I believe you put contact information in the slides as well, stuff like that. So thank you again. This has been Knowledge at Noon. This is enhancing productivity with Gen AI, team productivity with Gen AI. And so great. Thank you all for attending.